Hello, and welcome to the Being Human podcast, where we explore what it means to truly be human, physically, mentally, and spiritually. We upload an episode of this podcast every single week, and we've got loads of big names in the MMA, BJJ, and combat sports space coming up. So what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. You do not want to miss any of these episodes. On this episode of the podcast, I sat down with Dave Lovell. Dave Lovell is the coach to a plethora of professional fighters in both MMA and boxing, but none are more pertinent at the moment than Leon Edwards. Dave Lovell has been with UFC champ Leon Edwards from the very start of his career, and we talked a lot about Leon. I asked Dave about the first time he met Leon, the early days of training with him and coaching him, what Dave saw in Leon from early on in his training and career, and gave insights into fights with potential upcoming opponents such as Khamzat Chimaev, Shavkat Rakhmonov and Belal Muhammad. Dave also shared loads of great advice for fighters, especially young and upcoming fighters, on everything from how to develop the physical skill set to how to develop the mindset element of it as well. We talked a lot about the mindset that you need to be a successful fighter today, whether that's something you can teach and develop in fighters, how you develop it in fighters. Dave had so much wisdom to share on the fight game and life as a whole. A very wise guy, had loads of great insights. I do not doubt you'll find value in them. If you do, please make sure to hit that subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up, drop a comment below, share the video around on social media. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting Being Human. So I don't know if you've spoke about this before. I haven't heard it myself, but what's your first memory of meeting Leon? When did you meet him, and what were your initial thoughts on him as a person? And was it an instant, this guy's got something, or did you not necessarily see that shade until a bit later on?
Basically, first time I ever met Leon, it was at a place called the UTC, which was based in Erdington. It was opened as a mixed martial art gym. I got employed as a boxing coach there. I used to come there, teach Joe Public a bit of boxing. Some of the lads that was involved used to do some of the classes. Leon come there maybe around the ages of 17-ish, around there, came in. And he started to do MMA, and you could see that this kid took to it like a duck to water. He had that natural fighting look about him. I never used to have anything to do with him for maybe the first 6 to 7 months or so. You know, he was drilling with some of the coaches that was there, Silk, a couple of the other coaches that was there, that was predominantly MMA coaches. But his boxing, I seen this kid in the cage, and when they used to spar, it was all about him, you know, basically headshots, mainly big shots. I didn't see much boxing technique. My son at the time, Aaron, who was a top boxer, I suppose it was a case of talent attracting talent, and they sort of got together. They should move around, have a little spar. I used to show Leon 1 and 2 tricks, use his jab, establish his jab a little bit more, and being a southpaw, use his awkwardness as a southpaw to be successful. Showed him some foot drills, etc. And we just sort of like gelled from there. And obviously my sons and them being around the same age as Leon, give or take a year here and there, you know, they became like a little team, and it just blossomed from there. He asked me one day after training for a little while if I would help him in the corner. And been with him ever since.
You mentioned about coming over from boxing.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, when you first came over, this was a while ago now. MMA striking has come a long way since then.
Yeah.
In those early days, what were the main mistakes that you saw people making that you found yourself having to correct or advise them on?
Yeah. A lot of it, as you know, the foundation of boxing is your footwork. Everything else, you work from there. A lot of the lads, because it was MMA, and I never really understood the MMA game. It was new to me. So I didn't really think that the fundamentals in footwork was the same in boxing. But it is very similar. Establishing a jab, good. Now, you got to remember, pro boxing and amateur boxing is different. And the amateur boxing style suits MMA more, that long range, picking that single jab, that fast 1-2 with your distance, because you don't want to be dipping and rolling in front of people who's kneeing and kicking. So yeah, Leon is very, very, what can I say? He's like a sponge. He absorbs things very quick and he learns very quick. Same with his brother Fabian and a lot of other lads, but because we're talking about Leon, he was very adaptable. He's got an old head on young shoulders, and he listens well. And if a coach shows him something, he'll drill it till, he's good at it. Put it in his tool bag and looking for the next trick.
Just watching a bit of Leon sparring here now. I've just watched him do some things that I've never really seen him done in a fight before.
Okay.
Leon always has like a very specific game plan. He knows his style, right? And he sticks to it. He won't be drawn out of it. Like even in an emotional fight like the Colby fight, he's stuck to the game plan. He's very good at that, like you said. But how much does Leon kind of have in his back pocket that he can go to if he needs to in a fight? Does he have other styles that he can play? Because that's what it seems to look like to me. That he does have other tricks to his trade.
Well, as you see, we set a blueprint for basically all the fighters. They've got a blueprint set in their mind on how they adapt to a fight, how they open a fight, whether it's a 3-round fight or 5-round fight. But Leon now, it's MMA, and he knew his weak point was wrestling, because in the early days, it was wrestlers that was getting the better of him. As you can see, Usman, a couple of other lads, but now he's upped his wrestling game now, where he can compete with the best in the world in wrestling. So Leon is very good at mastering the range. He's got good hands, as you know. He's got good feet. Ask Usman, he'll tell you about it. He's very good at mastering the range, and I always emphasize the point to him. When you go out and you're having success with something, whether it's a jab, a 1-2, finishing with a body kick, a body shot, and you're having success with it, if it ain't broke, we don't fix it. Leon's a good reader of a fight also with his opponent. He knows we may have to adjust. If this guy's a predominant wrestler like Kobe was, we knew how the distance was going to be important. But when he did get hands-on wrestling, Leon knew what he had to do and when he had to do it. So we make adjustments according to the opponent we're fighting. And like I say, Leon is a very good listener and he can adapt just like that.
You mentioned about amateur boxing versus pro boxing and how you think amateur boxing is quite an applicable style of striking for MMA. As MMA's developed, people are learning more and more better training protocols. Do you think an amateur boxing background for like a very young fighter up and coming, do you think it would be beneficial for them to really focus on amateur boxing specifically for a while before transitioning to MMA? Or are you in the camp of it's better to train everything and practice everything and develop everything alongside one another together?
Yeah, 100%. The amateur game does suit the MMA, but I've had lads that have come to me that their background is boxing. They've come from a boxing background. And to me, I see that as a little bit more beneficial than a lad who's come from a jiu-jitsu or a wrestling background, because they are not used to getting struck in the face. And human beings, someone coming to your face, the instinct is to cover up or shy away from it. Us as fighters, we've got to learn how to block into the shots and slip the shots. But yeah, definitely the amateur style is more beneficial for the MMA style of fighting. And yeah, it varies. You may have a guy like Leon. He came in the gym basically with no background, and so he's pure MMA. So you have kids now, especially the younger generation, that come into gyms with no specific background and just gone bang straight into MMA. But you'll find a good percentage of them have come from a kickboxing background, a Muay Thai background, karate background, a boxing background. But yeah, as a coach now, you've got to learn how to gel him in now. If he's got good hands, got stand up, okay, you're good at that. Let's see what your wrestling's like. See what your jiu-jitsu is like. Bring them into a different world. Because when you're standing on your feet, now when you're on the floor, as in yourself in jiu-jitsu, when a man's on top of you trying to strangle you, try to arm lock you or kimura you or choke you out, it's a different world. So you're always learning. So if a younger guy comes in the gym, with an open mind and a good listener, regardless of what background he's got, as long as he's prepared to learn, you can mold them, groom them the way that, that you as a coach want them to perform, set a blueprint for them, and then the rest is down to their natural talent. A lot of people think it's all coaches. It is. The coaches play their part, but we got to remember the individual going in there. They've got to have a natural ability, a natural talent about them anyway, depending on where they want to go. The mindset, some guys maybe have great talent, but a weak mindset. So it's us as coaches to find that level of where this kid is physically and mentally. You know what I mean? And Leon is very strong mentally. His physical attributes are there for the world to see. His mindset, he's got the right mindset, and he's got the tools to go on to even achieve greater things than he has, which that's the quest we're on at the moment. So yeah, it's just down to the individual basically. But yeah, definitely the amateur style boxing suits the MMA game rather than the pro style.
When it comes to mindset, do you think that's something someone either has or they don't? Or have you seen people over the years who, when you first met them, when they first started training, had a pretty weak mindset, but you've seen them be able to develop that?
Yeah.
You spoke about natural talent. Mm-hmm. How much of it is natural talent, and how much can you actually build from nothing?
Well, what it is, like you see, you've got people that have got that weak mindset. I could name a few, but I don't want to, put anybody on the spot. And it's about now us as coaches to know where this kid is in his mind, not just his physical attributes. Is this guy, when the heat's on him, a lot of people go into a shell. How does he react under pressure? Because it's all right when you're giving it, but remember, fighting's a two-way street. You got to know how to take it. You got to know how to give it. A lot of people are good at giving it, but not taking it. So us as coaches now, and me as an individual coach, I will look for and say, well, okay, I wouldn't say to this kid, look, your mindset's weak, but there's ways and means of doing things as a coach where you can not only draw the physical aspect out of an individual, you can draw out his mental state or her mental state and improve it, make that stronger. It's just being around the game long enough and wise enough as a coach to spot these things, Yeah, and I like to think I've been in the game long enough to see where I'm a good reader of a character, I'm a good reader of a fighter, and knows his weak spots and his strong spots. So yeah, it's just down to the coaches basically that fighter is amongst that can draw out that little bit more out of them. It ain't going to happen overnight, but it may take longer with some people. May take, where you can maybe grab it in 6 months, it may take another person a year, 15 months. Sometimes you have to be patient as a coach, and see. And if you know that this person's got talent, but they may be lacking a bit of weakness on the mental side, then it's down to you to now observe that and then, groom it out of them as you can.
What, in a hypothetical world, is the easier fighter to develop? Someone that's got loads of natural physical talent but a weak mindset, or somebody that's got a really strong mindset but kind of physically they're not hopeless, but they're just so difficult to coach, they're not well coordinated?
Well, you can mix it, because I've come across them in my time as a coach. I've come across a kid who trains like a trooper, and he's at the crack of dawn, and he's knocking your door wanting to train, but he just hasn't got that natural talent. He just hasn't got it. But you still got, as a coach, you've got to dedicate your time to people like that, because if they show you that they're willing to put the work in, then all you can do then, yourself, the ability of that person, all you can do is bring them to the best of that ability. They're never going to be a world champion, but they love the sport, they're passionate about it, they put the work in. So everybody's not going to be a champion. You've just got to accept that. Yeah? Every coach would like to have a gym full of champions, but realistically, that's not going to happen. So you as a coach now, that guy, and then you've got another guy who's got the world of talent, but he hasn't got that dedication in training. Away from fights, he's doing whatever, drinking, whatever. So yeah, it's a mix and mash, a bit of a mix, and you've got to know now that guy that has got the world of talent, but he hasn't got the discipline that goes with him, you can only carry him so far. That it's going to come to a point where you and him's got to sit down and make that final decision. Well, look, you've got the talent, but you haven't got the discipline that goes with it, so it's not going to work. You know, you got to be real with your fighters, and that's what I think a lot of my fighters respect me for, because I'm real with them. I'm not going to blow smoke up anybody's ass and say, oh, you're going to be a world champion, and I know myself, this kid or this girl ain't going to be. So
you've been around it.
Yeah, I've been around the game long enough to know this, and you break people's dreams, you break people's hearts if you blow smoke up their ass. And then, you know, one thing you'll learn in life, young man, is experience is a thing that you've got or you haven't. Now, if you pretend to have experience and then you get found out that you haven't, you're going to look the biggest clown on the block. So that's why my policy is to keep it real with people. And sometimes you're going to say things to people and it's going to hurt their feelings. But listen, it is what it is. You know, when they go away and analyze what you've told them and maybe can look from it from your point of view, they're going to turn around and say, well, you know what Dave said, I never really liked it, but it's the truth. And that's where I am with my boys, yeah.
That's a very good point. People talk about being able to fake confidence, the whole, you know, old Muhammad Ali thing. I said I was the greatest before I knew I was. You can fake the front of it, right? But the experience that backs up real confidence, that only comes from getting it.
That's
There's
right.
no way you can fake it.
That's right, yeah.
So obviously you've distilled down a lot of wisdom there. But to kind of put it into 3 points, what are your top 3 pieces of advice for young fighters up and coming today? Whether it's mindset, whether it's technical advice?
Well, in a nutshell, if you want to be a fighter, number one, not all people that want to be fighters are fighters. They may see their friend doing it, and young people get carried away and think, well, he's doing it, I can have a go, which is not a bad thing. But for some people, it's just not for you. And they find out very quickly, because getting hit in the face and getting hurt is not a nice thing. And another guy who's a natural fighter, who this kid maybe, it don't necessarily mean he's got to come from a roughy, tufty background. It's his genetic makeup. It's either in you or it isn't. And you, as a coach now, you can see, yeah, this kid's a fighter. I know guys in that gym now, they may lack the skills, but they've got that fire. They've got that heart, you know.
And you can spot that from a mile away.
And you can spot that. You can spot that if you're experienced enough as a coach, you know. You'll find a lot of coaches try to live their hopes and dreams through their fighters, which is not a bad thing. But at the end of the day, to me, if you've had a coach that has done a bit of fighting himself, whatever background, boxing, mine background is boxing, and you know about the hurt, you know what it's like to picking dry blood out your nose for the next week. When you clench your jaw, it's hurting. You know, your missus can't rub you too tight because your ribs are hurting. When you've been through that, you understand about fighting. And there's a lot of coaches, what I call manual book coaches. They go out there, they watch a video, get a certificate, and away I'm a coach. Now, yeah, I'm not saying that they can't go on to be great coaches, but what I'm saying is how can I teach you to swim if I've not been in the water? You can, but like I said, you know, if I've been in the water and I can swim and I've done, then I can teach you and know what you are, not just in your fights, but in your training, which leads up to your fights, what you feel, what you've got to go through, the hurt part of it, the dedication part of it, the blood and sweat you're prepared to spill for it, you know, and then you get to see what you've got in front of you, and then you can mold, as a coach, start molding them to their strengths, you know, and like everybody's got their little different nicky knacks. It's like 3 tap dancers, the main theme's tap dancing, but everybody's got their own little individual little moves, and you know, you get to see it and you know, yeah, that one there, keep an eye on him or keep an eye on her, and that's the way we roll as coaches.
There's been a lot in the media about UFC 300. They were trying to book Leon. Word on the street was he was offered 3 different opponents,
yeah,
and he said yes to them all, but they all turned him down.
Right.
Who do you want to see Leon fight next? And do you have like a kind of like a dream fight for Leon in terms of who you'd like to see him fight long term before it's all said and done?
Well, let's face it, he beat the pound for pound. Excuse me. He beat the pound for pound Usman, not once but twice. First time, everybody said, "Oh, lucky head kick, last minute of the last round." Well, listen, fighting's fighting. It's never over till the fat lady sings, and that was a perfect example. So they said, "Oh, when Usman gets him back, he'll show him." Well, Leon showed you a different style. He chopped his legs away, distance, had Usman second doubting himself. He wasn't that aggressive bully come forward fighter because he knew this guy's a dangerous cat. He even said it himself in one or two of his interviews. Yeah, you know. Sorry again, what did you just run me back on that question again?
Who would you like to see him fight next? And do you have like a dream fight in terms of the long term that you'd like to see him fight before he retires one day?
Well, dream fight. I think you got some up and coming young guns in the game now. You got Shavkat, to name a few. You got Khamzat, but he don't know which weight he wants to be at. But as for a dream fight, for me, I would have liked to have seen Khamzat come down to welterweight and fight Leon because all the ballyhoo that was around him at the time, when Leon got took out the rankings, and then the COVID came along. Well, we never turned Khamzat down. We said we will fight him, but then Khamzat caught COVID. But for me, as for a fight to put everything and the haters and the doubters aside, I think that's the fight that would cement Leon for people to accept him for the great fighter he is. I haven't got no one. I mean, the 300 bill, he was offered Khamzat. Khamzat turned it down, said he's not fighting in Ramadan. I think Shavkat said the same scenario. And the other one was three of them.
Was it Belal?
Yeah, Belal. But again, back to Belal. The UFC is over here in July, so 90 to 95%, it probably will be Belal. But that's not set in stone because we're having the main man, Dana, say, well, we're definitely coming to Manchester in July, but he hasn't said it's going to be Belal, so we don't know. I think it will be because being there's a big Muslim contingency in England, in Manchester, more than likely it will be. So it's about Leon now beating Belal and moving on. I can see maybe down the line that Shavkat will get his shot. And if Khamzat wants it, come down to welter, make welterweight, and we'll fight you also. So yeah, that's it basically. There's nobody that I can say a dream fight for. Leon is just on the quest now of defending his title and then going on to put his name in the Hall of Fame. That's the quest he's on. He's 32 years of age. He doesn't want to be hanging around in the game long enough. He wants to make his money, come out unscathed, still got his marbles, live his life with his family. And all I can say is, God willing, he can fulfill that quest.
As a final note to finish, you talked about some coaches almost trying to live their hopes and dreams through their fighters.
Yeah.
I think, from my perspective, coaching at its best is a truly selfless endeavour.
That's
because
right.
You're not getting the glory, your fighters are getting the glory.
That's right.
And you strike me as a very real guy. Like, you've been in the game for so long. So I'd definitely put you in that camp as, a selfless coach. But do you think about things like legacy at the end of the day? Do you have a thing, even if it's not, world renowned, but the people that know you, what you want to be remembered for, what you've done as Leon's coach and a coach for other fighters? Are there certain things that you think about that you think, I want people to think about that when they think about Dave Lovell?
Well, it's like this. As you see, if I do post anything on the Instagram, it's about my fighters. It's not about me. To me, it's about me making these kids or these young men known in the sport they're in under my banner. And all said and done, when I walk away from this game, if I ever walk away from it, people that I've been involved with, regardless at the amateur level, intermediate, top level, can walk away and say, you know what, Dave meant well for me. You know, he had my back 24/7, and yeah, that's it. You know, I'm from the old school, and when we're on the battlefield, we don't leave a soldier. You know, all for one and one for all, and that's my motto. And I've not just got MMA fighters. Remember, boxing is my background, and I've got a handful of good prospects coming through now. And again, I've got to dedicate my time to them as well. So yeah, for me, like I said, I had my moments. It wasn't much in the fight game. Didn't make much of an impact in it because I didn't start till late. So it's about me dedicating my time to obviously producing these lads that anybody, I'm not going to jump around and say, oh, listen, seeing is believing. You know what I mean? And people that know me know I don't blow smoke up any of my fighters' arse. I just tell them as it is. And it's either you're with me or you're not with me. And that's the way I roll. I'm not out to, as Chronics would say, I'm not in it for the light. I'm in it for the love. You know, it's the passion. It's something I love doing. You know, I've had jobs, taxi driving, working in factories, but this is my love. This is my passion. And to get up and do it and help people achieve greatness in this sport, that alone, I go to my grave happy with that. Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Good.
Thank you,
Thank
Dave.
you. You're
Appreciate your
welcome,
time.
sir. You're welcome, bruv. Yeah.
Thank you.